Hey, Todd Feinberg, how are you?
We haven't talked to you. I think it's been since the session wrapped up. Is that right?
Not sure. May have talked once after that, but delighted to reconnect with you. Just been doing honest work these days, trying to make a living.
Trying to make a living so you can afford to go into session again next year.
Yes, it's one of the frustrations of serving in the Connecticut legislature in that there's this thought about whether it's truly a part-time job or a full-time job. But I'm here to tell you that if you're doing that job in any kind of way that matters, it's really going to interfere with your ability to earn an income. So I really crank it out in the summer. I got to work hard so that I can afford to pay my bills and keep fighting for freedom.
Well, thank you for doing that. So what's on your mind these days in terms of the political moment that we're in?
Sure. Well, I've been enjoying the callers today, exceptional callers, and the conversation about the potential for a red wave and things like that. And you know me, Todd. I've always been certainly on the conservative wing of Connecticut's Republican Party, and certainly probably the most conservative member of the General Assembly in either chamber.
You are virtually the conservative wing unto yourself.
Yeah, there are a couple of other amazing and great people too. So I don't.
There are, but
you
know, it's a small. It doesn't take a big cockpit to have you guys fly in the plane.
That's right. You can count them on one hand, and out of 187 total legislators, that's a hard thing to hear. I guess my biggest frustration with the Connecticut Republican Party is that we have never really had, at least in the last 10 years or so that I've been really involved, a brand that people can identify and say, what does this party stand for? And I was very pleased today that something on that, notion changed because the House and Senate Republicans actually today came together and we put forward a program called Affordable Connecticut. Mm-hmm. And I think it goes right to the heart of what this next election is going to be about. And I think it's a tremendous opportunity to help, increase Republican chances in this upcoming November election.
Does this have to do with the request for a special session?
Yes, we're requesting a special session to provide tax relief to Connecticut residents. The Democrats are going to try and make this election about anything but their policies that have really done damage across the country and certainly in Connecticut. They want to talk about guns, they want to talk about abortion, but the fact of the matter is the things that are affecting people in Connecticut are the rising cost of living, certainly gas prices, the cost of goods and services, the crime wave that continues to affect our state. And the fact of the matter is the state of Connecticut, I heard one of your recent callers just say that the towns have loads of money, but so does the state of Connecticut. The state of Connecticut has the largest budget surplus that it's had as long as anyone can remember. It's close to $3 billion. And the fact of the matter is that the Democrats don't want to give any of that money back to their constituents. We tried during the budget debate on the final days of the legislative session to offer amendments to provide real tax relief to Connecticut citizens to kind of offset the increased cost of living and inflation, and they voted it down. So we're going to travel around the state now. We're going to try and hold some rallies, and we're going to try and encourage people, to push back. One interesting thing I just wanted to say about the whole conversation about Republicans versus Democrats or / communists. I think that any politician in any party will do the right thing if the people that they represent are demanding it hard enough, mm-hmm. which is why I'm so pleased to see you and Tom and others on the radio actually making more patriots and changing hearts and minds, because that's the only way we're ever going to take back this state and this country.
Yes, ultimately that is a democratic system where the government responds to the will of the people. And if people are engaged and expressing properly their views and into the political marketplace, then the political marketplace has to respond to what the dominant theme is, and we'll start to see the ship of state change. That's what you're saying, right?
Exactly. I mean, there's precious few examples in Connecticut because I think in large part people view Connecticut as a blue state. I think Republicans across Connecticut are somewhat demoralized and frustrated. But we have had some success in recent years. I mean, the fact that there are a few strong conservatives in the legislature, we prevented some bad gun control this past year. There have been major pushes to prevent bad policy, like tolls is the number one example. The public option for health insurance. You can make a list of things that Democrats have wanted to do, but Republicans, especially when they've been effective at engaging the public, have been able to change their tune. And that's the hope with this Affordable Connecticut plan, which is around $750 million in excess overtaxation, I would call it, money that is sitting in the state's coffers as a result partly of, the Biden administration printing money and driving up inflation and devaluing the dollar, but also because when there's inflation and goods and services cost more, obviously the state takes in more tax revenue. And the right thing to do is to return that money back to the citizens. So we have this plan which has income tax relief. It expands the gas tax holiday to include diesel. Because obviously our trucks that are delivering our goods are running on diesel, and that's only going to be reflected in the price of things. Repealing the truck tax, which is a sneaky tax the Democrats passed at the end of the 2019 session that also drives up the cost of everything we buy. A modest reduction in the sales tax. All of these things together add up to around $750 million that we can give back to the residents of Connecticut because it's their money.
We're talking to State Senator Rob Sampson. Rob, why is it the right thing to do? It strikes me that if the government has extra money sitting around because tax receipts or jumped enormously because of the evil rich people making money in the stock market, or if there's a bunch of money because the federal government sent a bunch of money to cover up all the problems here, why isn't it the right thing to do with that money to use it to pay down the enormous debt that the state's carrying that costs regular taxpayers a huge amount of money every year?
Well, I couldn't agree more, Todd. And in fact, the debt service that we pay in our state budget, I don't know what the number is too. Last time I looked at it, I think it was around 12%. So, that's a substantial portion of tax dollars that residents are paying every year effectively for no services, just to pay off the enormous debt that we have. But I will tell you that included in the plan, we do not alter or diminish the amount of money, which is going to be a record amount of money placed into paying off our pension and long-term obligations this year, which is only just maybe one of the few positives that the Lamont administration actually has engaged in.
Sorry, what's the positive that the Lamont administration has done?
I don't have the numbers in front of me, but they do in their budget package offer to pay down a substantial amount of our long-term obligations and pension debt.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so what else do you want?
We're not interfering with that because I agree with you 100% that we have got to do that for sure.
What else do you want us to know about this new action from the Republican Party?
Well, I will give out the website, which is affordableconnecticut.com. And in fact, there is a petition there that people can sign up. And we're going to try and use public pressure to put the Democrats in a position where a majority of Connecticut residents are demanding their own money back. And maybe we'll get a special session out of the deal. And if nothing else, the Democrats will be on record either agreeing with doing the right thing for Connecticut residents or not. And that will be helpful come this November election.
Well, that's the important thing about pushing back, right, is you want to squeeze the Democrats so they have to assert that their goal is to keep government expensive.
Absolutely right. And that's obvious to your listeners and obviously to you and me. But I don't know that the average person who is certainly being impacted directly has given a lot of thought to Connecticut politics other than, oh, my God, the gas is $5, and what am I going to do when it's $6? And a great number of senior citizens today that are reaching out to me concerned not so much about the cost of things today, but the coming winter and how much
home heating oil
and gas is going to cost. It's going to be ridiculous.
Yeah, well, talk about that for a sec. How are people going to get through the winter?
Yeah, I don't know what's going to happen if on the federal level there is not any real significant relief for gas and oil prices. We include in our Affordable Connecticut package the gas tax holiday on diesel, and we also have a plan to expand a program in Connecticut called LIHEAP. I'm not really the greatest advocate, as you know, for entitlement programs. But I am very concerned about senior citizens in the state of Connecticut who are already paying exorbitant property taxes, and their ability to survive on Social Security income or pension income to be able to pay their bills and to be able to heat their home. So we're gonna devote $92 million out of that $750 million package to expanding the Live Heat program for that purpose.
We're talking to State Senator Rob Sampson from Wolcott. If you can stay around a few more minutes, we can talk a few more minutes, Rob.
I'd love to.
Thank you, sir. We will take a quick break and continue with Rob on WTIC. Thank you for being here. It's WTIC. We're talking with State Senator Rob Sampson from Wolcott. Thanks for staying around, Rob. What else is on your mind as you watch this larger political environment and you think about how Connecticut integrates into it? You heard our conversation about whether that wave is going to break and how hard it's going to break in the state. Do you see potential for good things happening here?
I would like to say yes. Certainly in the House of Representatives, I think there's a distinct chance of picking up a great number of seats. In the Senate, I actually just yesterday went through the SEEC, which is the State Election Enforcement Commission website, rather the Secretary of State's website, to look at all of the candidates that have filed. Mm-hmm. And I'm concerned because I don't know that we actually have enough candidates, even in place, that are strong enough to get us to a Republican majority. And we desperately need one, Todd. There's nothing's going to change in this state, certainly the direction that we're traveling in, until we have a Republican majority in one or both chambers. It's a frustration to me. And, being kind of a voice for the conservative wing of the party, I hear from a great many people expressing frustration over our candidates that we have for statewide office. Many of the legislative candidates, they consider to be weaker Republicans or more moderate Republicans. And I share that also. But I want to remind people that, we can't always get the perfect candidate in every situation. We can try and encourage them and leverage them to be more and more conservative. But the only way things change is if we put Republicans in a majority, because then all of the bad policy, the big gun control bills and the CBAC agreement that gives $40,000 worth of raises to state employees, those things happen because the Democrats are in the majority. If the Republicans are in the majority, those things are never even brought up. So there is not even a chance that they're going to be voted in. And that's the reason why we've got to support Republican candidates across the board, and we've got to continue to push them to be more conservative, and I will certainly do that. But we can't just give up on our Republican candidates because they're not perfect.
Well, also, this is just the physics of politics. When you have been in the minority, you attract less exciting candidates until people start to see that there's a path to victory, and then progress gets made.
Right. We've got to make it popular to have Republican values in this state. And once we do, trust me when I tell you, Republicans will become more Republican and Democrats will become more Republican too.
Well, there you go. All right. Well, let's get to work on that, Rob, okay?
You can count on me every time.
Rob Sampson, thanks for being here. Great to talk with you.
Always my pleasure, Todd. Thanks a lot. Bye.
All right.